You good?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my brothers here. Oh, my knee. There.
I see we actually have the green light on it. Our timer is earlier than my clock, so. Okay, it looks like we have the green light, so I'm going to call this meeting of the Lake Mills City Council to order for Tuesday, March 3rd. Misty, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Curler,
Here.
Ms. Schmager,
Here.
Ms. Quednow,
Here.
Mr. Coots,
Here.
and Mr. Waters previously informed staff that he would be unavailable to attend in person this evening.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our next item is correction and acceptance of the City Council meeting minutes from our February 17th meeting. Are there any corrections or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll accept those into our record. Next, we have our board and committee reports. We have the January Plan Commission and 2 January Library Board minutes. Any comments or questions or corrections on those minutes? I had a question about the library building construction, but maybe I'll wait till Drake's report because he's got some reference on the library there as well. Okay, so we'll accept those into our public record. Next is our correspondence and constituent contacts. Greg, would you start us out tonight?
I'm sorry, did you say me?
Yeah, please start. Yeah.
I had, I had a contact in favor of the Century site plan. A couple of contacts about the golf course, again, both for and against potential rezonings. Got the Rock Lake, sorry, what is that? The Rock Lake?
JRLC.
Oh, the Joint Rock Lake Committee?
Joint Rock Lake, Joint Rock Lake Committee meeting minutes. And a bunch of city emails, but that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Mary?
I had identical correspondence, and then I attended via Zoom the Jefferson County Economic Development and Thrive Ed Consortium, just as a learning opportunity.
Great, thanks. Michelle?
I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay. I had all the same correspondence that Greg mentioned, and then I attended the Legendary Lake Mills Board meeting, the Joint Rock Lake Committee, the Plan Commission last week, and opportunity, Drake and I both attended recognition of contributions to the library project from a couple of big donors. So that was really exciting to be a part of that. Okay, so next we will go into our public comment. Individuals who are have registered to speak are invited to address the council at this time. State your name and address when you're called to make your comments. No action will be taken for items that are not listed on the agenda, and each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. So we have 2 people registered tonight. First is Jacob Arndt. And I think we've got our timer back working again, so. Oh, it has to be with that, okay. All right, go ahead. Oh, Jacob, can you make sure the green light is on the microphone there, or if it's not, press the button?
Is that
No.
good? Is that
That
good?
sounds better, yes, thank you.
Okay. Name is Jacob Arndt, 527 Mulberry Street. And my comment, thank you for taking my comment, is about the Hovde development. I have another property across the street here, so I have an interest in it. We sure need the development. I mean, it's been sitting there for about 10 years, and I'm really happy to see things moving along. but looking at the project and looking at the elevation, I mean, I don't have any problem with the massing and everything of the building and the, you know, the footprint and all of that. And I'm sure the infrastructure and everything can be taken care of. Whether or not we have Hovde help out with that, I think that's worked out by the staff here. But anyway, a little design goes a long way, and we're going to have to live with this building for like 2 or 3 or 4 generations. I mean, it's going to be there a long time, and it really has a presence and an impact. 4 stories high. The building we're in now is a piece of architecture. It's architectural. And the building that we have planned is basically modified warehouse, and with some design elements in it, basically tying it together with some of the design elements that we have on our 19th century, early 20th century buildings here, would go a long way toward massaging things into a look, into a comfort level with the existing environment that I think the architects could really, just with a little bit of work and not a lot of extra money, with some pull-outs, some soldier cores, some roll-locks, some definition around windows and doors and things, and some relief panels and the rest of it, to make it a little bit less, quite a bit less somber and boring, would make a hell of a lot of difference. I mean, if you think of sitting in this building and having meetings, or sitting in a cinder block building and having meetings, the difference is psychologically very important. And I think, you know, the presence of it right across from the park, the whole downtown area, is a hell of an impact. And that is the point I want to make, is a little bit design. A little bit of design goes a long way, and it's not going to be expensive to do some masonry design to give it some texture.
Thank you. Looks like.
I think I figured it out what I did
Okay,
wrong.
sorry, we didn't get a beat, but we did get to your 3 minutes,
Yeah,
so.
I was watching it, so.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Jacob.
Thank you.
Okay, our other speaker tonight is Ken France.
Do you want to try the button and see if it works?
Sure.
When he starts.
I'll give it a try.
Nope. Okay.
Hello. My name is Ken France, and I live at 331 Pinnacle Drive. I'm here to suggest that both the City Council and Planning Commission should maintain the current comprehensive plan's future land use map as is. I ask that you please vote against any future amendments for the land use map that would eliminate the golf course. Since the February 17th City Council meeting, I contacted both Lake Mills High Schools and Lakeside Lutheran High School to discuss the relationship with the golf course. Their high schools' golf and cross-country teams greatly benefit from having the golf course within walking distance of their campuses. They are both 100% behind the Lake Mills Golf Course Association's goal of finding a buyer who we can help to maintain the golf course thrive and reach its full potential. Just a few of the other reasons previously mentioned for keeping the Lake Mills Golf Course can include protecting property value of homes on or near the golf course, and actually property value of all homes in the city of Lake Mills, because a successful golf course helps everyone, provides valuable green space, promotes a healthy activity within our city for young and old alike, and attracts people to our city, which generates income for our local businesses. And hot off the presses, we have yet a third investor who has just contacted us, who is very interested in making a bid, along with 2 others, but are waiting until the March 19th decision is made. So buyers are awaiting for the result. I invite all residents in.
Packet, a decent amount of material tonight. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So I had some questions about the library. There was references in the library board meeting minutes about, looking at final plans and getting ready to put plans out to bid. And I know we have this kind of unusual situation where the city owns the building, the library board is, sort of a independent body, I guess you would say, independent decision-making body. So I'm curious, what is the council's role in dealing with the construction bids and authorizing bids and so forth? How does that all work? And will we have some involvement coming up in the next few months on that?
My understanding to date has been that it's a library board building. And its operations and building. And its operations and repairs, maintenance, things of that nature. So the library can execute a contract similarly to how they have with the architect on the project. So they can execute a contract with the bid awardee. We do act as a financial agent for the library as far as payment out, pay requests, things of that nature. So we are involved in the process, but the decision-making lies in the library board.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarity, I don't have an objection or anything. I just wanted to make sure I understood what, if the council needed to be doing anything as this project moves forward. And I guess one more follow-up on that then. Does that mean that the library board would have the responsibility to oversee then their contract and oversee the construction?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm assuming there would be some coordination with our utilities and other
Yep, they have to
folks like that.
submit, they have to submit an application to the city. So it's,
Sort of like a building permit?
right.
Okay.
They have to
Okay.
obtain building permits, they have to obtain administrative review approval, comply with our standards, things like that.
Okay, great, thank you, I appreciate that, just explanation of
Mm-hmm.
how that all works. Michelle, is there anything you wanted to add?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Any other questions on Drake's city manager's report?
Yeah, a quick question about the March 19th Special Planning Commission meeting. Is that only for, will the Planning Commission be taking action during that meeting, or is it only the public hearing and actions being reserved for the next week for their regular meeting?
The Plan Commission will have the ability to act.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the city manager this evening? Mary?
Yeah, I failed to mention in my correspondence that I had several people shout with joy when they saw the new bridge back at Bartles Beach. So thank you to the for all that did the work on getting that bridge back in place and with that new flooring on there. It looks great, but I forgot to mention that in my correspondence. I had a few people make really great comments about that.
Fantastic, great. Okay, if there's no other questions for Drake, then we'll move on to council business. Our first item is a consent agenda. So we have 3 license applications under that consent agenda. So our process is if any council member wants to take any of those items out separately and discuss separately, we can do that. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Coots and a second by Michelle Quednow. And we're not allowed to have discussion, so I guess we just have a vote. Misty, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. If there's no objections, well, we've got several long ones here, I guess. So I guess let's go to our next agenda item, which is a discussion and possible action on the Sandy Beach food service options. And we have a staff memo giving some options. So
Sure.
Drake, you want to take it away?
So as you're going through the memo, I'll kind of walk you through the organization of it. So I had asked Dustin with Mead and Hunt, the city's planner, to provide examples of food service out of park shelters, but not something that would extend into a full service restaurant. And so as you get to the comparison of structure options, as you get to section A represents what I understood to be the city council's goals. It best represents what came out of the work session. And so the Tanglefoot Park Shelter is, in my mind, the one that most closely represented what the council was hoping to achieve. Obviously, there's options and customization that the city could undertake. That structure has a bathroom and a catering kitchen. I think the city council was more leaning towards perhaps, the bathrooms being located elsewhere in the park, and then a commercial kitchen being installed for someone to actually be able to cook food instead of having it off-site and bringing it into a catering kitchen for distribution. I've talked to a couple food service providers, and they've thought that unless there was a food truck or smoker or some kind of implement on site, that a catering kitchen would be difficult logistically to manage, to bring everything off site and serve out of that kitchen for a full day. The Sterling Park Shelter is actually the same product, just with fewer amenities selected on it. So it's just the open air park shelter. So it kind of shows you the flexibility that we have in building out something that might work for us. Those are prefabricated examples. The city council, of course, has the ability to build, timber built, stick built, whatever you may as well. That process is a little bit longer and probably more costly. Section B is simply your upgrade option. It's examples that include an outdoor eating space, some climate controls. So that would be kind of an upgrade over what was discussed. Section C is a different aesthetic, but lower cost option. So it's prefabricated modular buildings that get purchased and then laid out. And then section D is included only if the city council did not want to have a commercial kitchen built into it. And so there would need to be the infrastructure available to support something that could cook the food and deliver the food to it. So that's kind of the structure of it. Tonight I'm envisioning that perhaps the city council will formalize the direction it would like to go and direct staff to begin putting things together for inclusion in the capital improvement plan and taking the steps to prepare for a referendum if one is deemed to be necessary at that point. There is some site preparation estimates included at the end of the memo that the city's engineer coordinated with Dustin on to bring together, as well as at the beginning, kind of a range of what a commercial kitchen costs can range from, depending on what obviously is included and what's necessary from a fire prevention and ventilation standpoint. So that all kind of bears out during a design process, but that is kind of the different levels that we have. And again, section A represents, I think, what is most related to what came out of those work sessions. Everything else is either an upgrade of service of some kind, or there's some sacrifices from a service level perspective in favor of cost reduction.
Okay, thank you. And we have our planner, Dustin Wolf, here as well, if there are any questions. And as you mentioned, Drake, this is scheduled as a discussion and possible action. So if we had some direction that we wanted to give the staff, out of our discussion tonight, we would be able to do that. So I guess let's kick off a discussion. Michelle?
I'm just looking at the final, the D, and at the very bottom, it says total site work, 170,000. Is that what's included in the site development and utility estimates, or is that the cost of the hybrid core building?
That's the site development and utility estimates.
Okay, so how much was the hybrid core building and mobile vendors? Because there wasn't anything given for that.
That one, I think the range was wide. on that one. For like the Tanglefoot Park Shelter, that was estimated at a $1.5 million structure. Once you get into kind of the customizable options and something that's generally served from a food truck or something, it's going to depend on what type of shelter you wanted to build in order, because it could be, you could have a very basic park shelter that people walk back from, but if you wanted it more integrated, so that just the range is so wide to be
Okay.
less than useful.
Okay.
If I can add, the Sterling example that you see there with their public marketplace, that has been designed to be sort of a flexible space where you can back trucks, food trucks or vendor trucks up to it on a drivable surface, and then they can plug in. The other that we're showing in section D is a modular block building, right? So again, as Drake had mentioned, it really does depend on the type of structure that you want to provide the kind of sheltering. The rest is site civil work around it to provide the necessary foundations for however you're going to use the space.
I should note too that the customization options for like a section A, the product that you see in section A is ceiling fans, different levels of electrical, obviously bathrooms, different levels of kitchen space. So those are all things amenities that can be decided upon. But it's really the idea is that it's an open air park shelter attached to a building that is producing food out of at counter service. You can see they have the garage doors and things to close it off as well. So there are probably ways to reduce costs from what they saw as well, depending on the level that the council wanted to provide. But so there still will be decisions in the future, no matter what option is decided. But this is kind of the opportunity to formalize what came out of the work sessions.
I have a follow-up, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in hearing what you have to say, the Tanglefoot Park Shelter, does that then, you know what, let me wait on that question. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you for pulling something together pretty quickly on meeting our deadline for beginning of March, trying to make sure that we hopefully get to a point where we have funding in the budget for this year. I am a visual person, so I'm going to pass out a little, 3 pictures. 2 of them I shared when we had our working session. They were from one of the citizens who had done a rendering of a small kitchen with a covered space, 2 different versions. And then the last one is actually Michelle. You had drawn something on paper. And so I did my best to try to find a picture that might kind of showcase when I'm visualizing, what I would think would be something that is modest in price and highly functional and highly versatile would be something like the last page, or all of them are similar, all 3 of them are very similar. And so I don't know that I am the expert on which A, B, C, or D format.
Give one to Dustin too, since you're not the city.
Are the first 2 the same?
I'm not sure.
No, I need one.
We're sharing copies with others.
Are the first 2 pictures the same?
Well, one is like a full roof line, and the other one is what was a pergola. They're similar
Variations.
yeah. And I would like to see, I'm not the expert on whether A, B, C, or D is the best approach, but I would like to approach it from a modest cost price point. So I liked the $150 to $750 in option A. Something underneath our $1 million. My preference is not that I'm using the need to go to referendum as the rationale, but I feel like we have a lot to address in the park, and so trying to balance the money appropriately for us and for our community. I think something that's functional, simple, that's underneath the 1 million would be my preference, with a commercial kitchen that is small. We talked about having it be not a restaurant, so maybe it has the electrical for some restaurateur to bring in their own fancy piece of something or other if they desire to upgrade what we put in as some basics, as a thought. But I would like us to move forward with something that is casual. I mean, the sandbar was really casual, and, you know, it wasn't high frills, and so I would like to support something that is more, you know, park-centric, and then all of our shelters maybe would look, well, this last page was the one I was trying to draw, Michelle, that you were drawing kind of like a Court Park on steroids with a little restaurant. So that was my attempt to do something. Okay, I see what you're saying, and that I think would fit the area. It would be versatile, so if a vendor isn't able to provide service, some year we run into trouble, you still have this beautiful shaded shelter. You could turn it into rental space. I don't know about renting a commercial kitchen, if you will, for family reunions and whatnot, but I am feeling like that something of this nature would work, and that fits us in the price point under $1 million. And it would, I think, meet our criteria that we talked about when we met and did our work session. So I just brought pictures because I know that's not what we're here to talk about, exactly what it looks like. But I think if we think more of a modest scale, we could do something really cool. Can string some cool lights. You could put a garage door or two. You might be able to fit that in the budget. But what A, B, or C, or D, I'm not sure what the right approach would be to get there. But something that's modest in structure and style. I know I'm repeating myself, but
I think the direction certainly can be as simple as, you know, an open air park shelter with a commercial kitchen attached to it for counter food service, and then we start looking for either a product that meets that, or we start thinking about, you know, designing it for what meets our needs.
Yeah, I think that's the big issue is, you know, if you're thinking casual food offerings, simple grill and maybe fryer, is that what we're looking? Because that was generally what, you know, the previous offerings were. You know, as we said, the cost changes by the size of the commercial kitchen and the kind of offerings within it. So anything beyond warming facilities really is going to require hoods and all of that. So, you know, if we're thinking that we're not really concerned about the scale of rentable for weddings or climate controlled, when you say doors that could close, but really we're not looking to heat the space, really just cool it, make it comfortable for 3 seasons, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Open
That's-
air.
That was, as I was going through the memo, some of the things that I was circling, and I think we've probably all been to establishments that just have some kind of a sliding panels just for inclement weather, but not that the space is heated. But
Yeah, the
just,
commercial
you know, if
kitchen
it's-
will need some climate
kitchen
control, obviously.
Kitchen will need some climate control, right.
Climate
The
control
dining
and
area wouldn't really have, we wouldn't be
no air conditioning.
heating and air conditioning the
Correct.
space.
Yeah.
Just for people who are, since we're passing around pictures, but they're not available to people in the audience or watching online, the picture that we're looking at really does look a lot like the Course Park shelter with, instead of a rentable kitchen space on the end, it has a concessionaire space and doesn't have bathrooms.
I would say
So
that
it's
the
sort of that open
concession
air.
area is where the bathrooms are at Corth Park, if you understand that setup.
Sure, and I mean, obviously, that could be laid out different
Yeah.
ways, things like that, but that's sort of the thing. One thing, or a couple things that really caught me, I appreciate you explaining, Drake, that A was what you thought was most what we were looking for, because I'm like, why are we seeing all these for? But it's just good to, make sure that we understand the different options and their price points. I circled a lot of positive things under A in the description in Dustin's memo, broad customization options, low maintenance, suitable for integrating storage and concessions. I think those are all things that, as we talked in our work session, those would be things that we would want. Our restaurant proposal was, I looked it up, 3,875 square foot footprint for the building. Korth Park is 3,500 square feet for that shelter. You know, we may or may not have a patio, you know, beyond the covered space, but to me, I feel like somewhere in that 3,500 square feet is about the size that we were talking about for a restaurant, so that seems to me to be within the ballpark for, you know, what we might want here as well. Greg, do you have any thoughts on the memo or discussion?
No.
Okay, that's fine, just wanted to make sure.
Out of curiosity, Dustin, is the Tanglefoot Park Shelter 4 season or 3?
I would say it's more 3. I wouldn't say dead of winter.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure.
They happen to also have 2 very large donors to get their park shelter. So
Gotcha.
if anyone's interested in being a participant in our efforts, that, you know, we welcome.
Put a plaque on there or naming rights.
Mary, a couple of comments that you made I wanted to react to in agreement. One is I feel like under $1 million would be personally what I would like to shoot for. Again, it's similar to what you said, not because of any referendum requirements, but because we have lots of other recreational amenities that we're interested in providing in the park. And, you know, we are a small city with limited resources, so I don't think we have the kind of resources to do something real elaborate, but, you know, something under $1 million seems like reasonable. You also touched on rental, and, you know, some of the examples here were rental. I think my personal preference would be that we would not look at this as being a rental space initially, because a concessionaire, you know, likely is going to be someone that has a contract with us for the whole summer. They're not going to be able to share that kitchen. So then you're just talking about the open space, and I think we really want that to be available to everyone. We have other park shelters in the park that will be available for renting and that have grills and, you know, things like that. So, as you said, you know, if something happens, we lose a vendor, we want to, you know, change how we operate it, I think we could do that. But I don't think that was one of my goals, is having it be rentable for kitchen use.
I agree.
So, any other comments or discussion? Drake, do you want us to make any kind of a motion or give some kind of a more specific direction? You know, what would be most helpful?
I think a motion is helpful. I think, you know, the consensus seems to be, you know, a commercial kitchen with a modest open-air park shelter with a commercial kitchen attached to it, with the goal of a budget below $1 million. I think if you want to formalize that in a motion, it makes it the path forward clear, right? The direction is clear. If you choose not to, we'll continue down that path, but I will have to sit down and see what options exist and what costs are looking at right now for it, and then come back to you to make sure to let you know if we can meet that goal and if what we'd have to size it as in order to hit that budget goal.
Maybe one quick question before anybody makes a motion. In the utility estimates, there's a concrete pavement, and that was including 10,000 square feet. Was that just kind of an assumption of, you know, like the floor space plus maybe some patio sidewalk?
Yes, yeah, the idea was just to have a kind of site civil pad with all the services that are necessary, just to work from. So 10,000 square feet is a quarter acre. It sounds larger than it really is when you start putting buildings on it and start programming the space.
Okay,
So-
and it does seem like a reasonable estimate. Again, I'm thinking 3,500 square feet plus or minus for the footprint that's, you know, covered and building-wise. But like you said, you have to drive vehicles will need to drive to it for maintenance, and there may be open patio beyond it that would also be concrete, so that seems like a reasonable estimate.
I'm not sure how you want me to start this motion, but I think I'm going to do the best I can. I move to approve the idea for the Sandy Beach Food Service building to be a modest, which is less than 4,000 square feet, open-air shelter with attached commercial kitchen for a contracted vendor and covered seating. Is there anything I'm forgetting?
With a maximum expenditure of $1 million.
Oh, thank you. And with a maximum expenditure of $1 million.
To move forward for inclusion in the capital improvement plan.
Yeah,
Can I-
I don't think you need to put the contracted vendor piece into it.
Okay. So a modest open-air shelter with attached commercial kitchen, covered seating, and under $1 million to be approved for the capital improvement, is that right? Is that what you said?
For
Capital
development for
included?
inclusion in the capital improvement plan.
Okay, you guys all said that. That's what I mean.
Right. So we'll understand that as a motion to direct staff to move forward with planning for an open-air shelter with an attached commercial kitchen, with a budget goal of under $1 million for an approximately 3,500 to 4,000 square foot facility, and direct staff to take the necessary steps for inclusion in the city's capital improvement plan.
Yes, you're so much more eloquent.
I will second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Michelle Quidnow, seconded by Mary Schmager. Hopefully the record will be clear on that. It's been repeated a couple times. Any further discussion? I just have a quick question, I guess. One thing that was clear in Dustin's memo regarding the prefab and the precast is those could be sizable pieces and, might need cranes and that kind of a thing. Is that going to be an issue where, staff will need to factor in sort of like the timing of when we might construct something like this? Because obviously we don't want to put in a new parking lot and then, tear it up with a heavy crane a year later. So I just for my own understanding, is that something we'd have to factor in?
Yeah, we'll want to coordinate with the city's engineer as far as what staging might need to look like and timing of other improvements that could be desired at the park. So I think we'll want to be strategic about when and how we accomplish these things based on what's necessary for the construction. So as we learn more, we should have a better idea. But correct, we won't want to put a heavy piece of equipment on a brand new parking lot.
Sorry.
Okay.
If I can
Yeah.
just add, when we've done these in the past, you're bidding out a package for site civil work and then typically the construction of the shelter itself. Not to oversimplify it, but think Tinker Toy set or Erector set where you're bolting things together. They come in and do all of this simultaneously, so they're handling kind of that order of operations as a part of your bid package.
And thank you for mentioning that, Dustin, and I guess that does remind me of one other thing for clarification. So the site development and utility estimates, those are outside of the $1 million. Is that everybody on the council's understanding?
I think
those will not be part of the building?
I think I guess we can think about the interpretation of the ordinance, but I think that it could be what it takes to make a building buildable would likely include the civil work as well, and so that may factor into that budget.
Okay, and again, I'm not thinking so much about whether we have to do a referendum or not. If we need to, we need to, but does that match the council members' understanding of our maximum budget? Would that be to include that approximately $170,000 in site work? Yes? Okay. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Misty, would you call the roll on the motion regarding asking the staff to plan for an open-air shelter, attached commercial kitchen, maximum $1 million expenditure, and approximately 3,500 to 4,000 square feet?
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. And thank you, Dustin. Okay, so our next agenda item is ordinance 1288. This is the first reading tonight. Misty, would you do that reading for us?
Ordinance 1288, amending City of Lake Mills Ordinance Section 660-44 Sub A, official zoning map, City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin, address 105 South Madison Street, 204 East Lake Street, 203 Water Street, 209 Water Street, and 223 Water Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin. Parcel identification number 24607131322-016, 24607131322-017, 24607131322-018, 24607131322-037, 24607131322-038, and 24607131322-039. Owner Gunlock Properties LLC, petitioner Hovde Properties LLC.
Thank you. Drake?
This item comes to you with a recommendation to approve from the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission did hold a public hearing on the zoning change, as is required by the process. This is a rezone, maintains the B1 zoning designation, but then places the Plan Development District overlay on top of it to accommodate the requested development. This is the Consolidated General Development Plan and Precise Implementation Plan process. And so the application is complete and has been submitted with both of those incorporated into the application. In general, it is for a 100-unit multifamily development with both surface and underground parking incorporated into the development. It is a 4-story building. The attachments will kind of run you through what any exceptions to the code under the PDD overlay are. This is consistent with City Council planning documents, the comprehensive plan, and previous discussions on what would be kind of incorporated into the redevelopment of this site. It does not require an amendment to the future land use map, so it is consistent. And so the zoning change can be acted upon by the City Council. There's also an incorporation of, I think, approximately 10,000 square feet of commercial space on the first floor. So it is a mixed-use development in the city's downtown. The developer is here tonight. If there are questions of them, there are the attachments that were included in the Plan Commission, including their presentation, is included in your packet. So it's up to the council how much detail you'd like them to go into on the first reading, but they are available here tonight to speak to the project.
Thank you. So I guess I would like to invite representatives from the developer to come up and share whatever remarks you would like to, and then if we have any questions, and please, there's several of you, so please introduce yourselves to the council as well. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having us tonight, and we thought we'd give maybe a little bit of a comprehensive overview, because I think some people have had a chance to see some of this in the Planning Commission, some haven't, so if we go a little long, just cut us off, but we thought we should probably cover this comprehensively. It's an important project. It's a sizable project for the community, so we want to make sure that we give you the information that we think everybody should have.
Is the green light on?
It is on.
Okay, you're just a quiet
yeah,
speaker.
closer,
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Okay. And please introduce yourself.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I'm Randy Ginther. I'm the president with Hovde Properties. And with our team here, I've got Ethan Schwenker, who is our COO, and he'll talk a little bit. And then our architects, Angus Young, as well. So that's our team here tonight. So, we'll kind of go through what we wanted to present to you. If that works for you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to give you I'm going to speak a little less about the project myself. I just want to give you a little overview about Hovde Properties and who we are, because I think that's important. Who's going to do this project? Who are you? What's your reputation? That type of thing. So again, we just want to give you a little overview of that. So I'll try to be short. Hovde Properties was founded in 1933. We're a family-owned company, third generation. We're the real estate arm of the Hovde family. The Hovde family has interest in banking and some other industries, but our group is the real estate group that represents this project. We have a staff size of about 50 employees, full in-house capabilities, planning, legal, operations. We manage our own properties with our own people, so we self-manage our properties. We own approximately 1,500 market rate multi-family units in Wisconsin, about 500,000 square feet of office and retail, 2 small hospitality projects, and about 400 acres of development land as well. So I just want to talk a little bit about our approach, and I think it's relevant here because our approach fits what we're planning to do here in Lake Mills. So we really look for opportunities that we believe will stand the test of time, number one, and are located in growing communities that have a high degree of walkability and access to the daily life needs. We think that's really important when we look at projects. 2, we focus on developments that we believe that we'll be happy holding indefinitely. We are long-term holders, so when we build a project, we look at, is this a project we want to build, and we will be happy to hold in the family, like I said, indefinitely. So that's another key attribute for us. We're looking for those types of projects to fit. We develop typically in communities that have housing needs, strong community support, and leadership that approaches this as a partnership with us. We definitely look at it as a partnership when we come into communities and we build things, so that's very important to us. We believe in having our own employees on site, and part of the reason we look for the right size when we do projects too is we want to be able to have on-site management, on-site maintenance. We think that's really important for the quality of the project, and also because we're part of the community. So our staff becomes very much integrated with the community. Usually our staff lives in the community. That's very typical for us. We tend to build higher quality projects, again, because we're long-term holders. So we tend to build our projects to a little bit higher standard than you might see in fee developers who only plan to hold it and sell it in 3 years. That's just not our approach. We want the building to be built right. And we know that if you cut costs on the front end, it comes back to haunt you, 10 years later when you're trying to fix the things you should have done right on the front end. So that's important to us. We don't develop to trends. So we really believe in a mix of unit types when we approach our buildings. We want to meet people at all stages of life. We've seen that very successful. In our other projects where, it can be people who are retired all the way down to people starting out. We just think that's the right mix to do in projects. And we have that mix in most of our projects. And we see a much better community mix. We have different people at different ages. So that's an important principle to us. We only do market rate housing as a company because it plays to our strengths. Other people do affordable very well. That's just not where our strengths lie. So we focus on market rate. And in general, we don't do capital raises from investors. We do the projects and invest our own money in these. So, it's very much direct, for us. So just real quick, our projects that we've done are consistently celebrated, quite frankly, for their contribution to meeting the housing needs in the communities when we come into them, while also benefiting the local businesses. And so just a few examples, we've done this in Waunakee, where we've won Best Community Multifamily, we've won the Chamber Awards for redevelopment, and other accolades for that project, which is right in downtown Waunakee. Racine was top project of the year, CPR awards for redevelopment of downtown property, and that's in the downtown area of Racine, so that was a major redevelopment in that city, and has done very well and very well received in the community. Janesville, Best Community Multifamily Awards, New Development of the Year Awards, again, really meeting Janesville's housing needs. So those are just a few examples of some of the projects we've done that have similar, from our perspective, similar characteristics to what we see here for this project. So just wanted to highlight a few of those. Why do we do all this? Why do we take these approaches? Ultimately, because we believe that by following those, we end up with a project that fits well with the community. And that turns into a long-term asset for us and for the community that we operate in. We think the project here at Lake Mills is one that can follow this model that we've seen successfully done, on some of the other communities that we've worked with. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of that overview. about who we are, how we approach things. And this project very much fits that model for us. So I'll turn it over to Ethan and let him get more specific into the project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy, and thanks, council members, for allowing us an opportunity to present tonight. As Randy mentioned, my name is Ethan Schweiker. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with Hubby Properties. So with this project, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of background because it's actually been several years that we have been working on this project. We first approached it actually back in 2021, 2022, when we actually have some members of our team that have lived in Lake Mills, one that lived for a while now is in Jefferson, so don't hold it against him. But so we've known about the site for a long time. As Randy mentioned, it kind of fits the box of the types of sites where we would look to. It's located in downtown, but it's underutilized. It's near blighted, and it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, we've got this strong downtown character. How can we complement or enhance that with our project? It's also based on the sizing, something that fits within our box to have that on-site manager. So one of the things that we looked into when we were first doing this was, okay, what are the unit mixes? What are the types? How many units can we get there and still have parking so it's not a traffic issue? How do we approach that? And once we figure out some of those pieces, we got this under contract, and then we started the due diligence process. Again, this is all back in 2022. We got a phase 1 report and a phase 2 report on the environmental, which included borings, soil borings, groundwater testing. We went even further and got a geotechnical analysis, which gives us a full understanding of what the soils are underneath and any challenges we might have. So we went through all of that, and then we worked on trying to get the pricing correct, getting the financing correct, and in 2022 we sort of ran into a block which was a bit of an overhang from COVID, that construction pricing was very volatile at that time, right? We saw 20% increases year over year in construction pricing, which kind of threw things off what we could make work, and we didn't want to go through the process of trying to entitle it when we ultimately didn't know that we could build the building of the character and quality that, we didn't want to present that to you and then have to remove all those features because we couldn't make it work from a pricing standpoint. So we backed away from that and fell out of contract for 2 more years. I think that there were a variety of suitors on the site, or furniture stores or car dealers. There's been a variety of people who've kind of been interested in, I think, collectively enough folks that doesn't really fit with where we wanted to go, nor does it address the housing need. So we sharpened our pencils, construction pricing sort of settled down. We got a little bit more into the weeds of finding alternative sources. So we looked at the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation to fill some gaps. We've talked through the potential for tax and incremental financing, a number of these items to say, all right, if ultimately we want to do a project of a certain quality and size, we know what the environmental issues are there. We've got to work through the DNR process. We will do that. And we're seeing we've done that in pretty much a lot of our sites, just the nature of doing infill development. So we know what we're getting into with that. Now we have a plan to build sort of the quality and character that we feel like is in line, and we can come back to the table. So that's when we re-engaged with city staff about a year ago, maybe a little bit more at this point, and started again sharpen our pencils and come up with a plan that we feel like actually achieves all those goals and is feasible, given that other projects you do by the highway, just build more units if the numbers don't work. Here, there's a size and a mass that makes sense for the downtown, and so we try to follow up that. So within that, then we really turn our attention to the design to make sure that it can make sense, and that's where our architectural team really came in with their knowledge about working in historic downtowns to present something that we feel like is the right mix of materialities and facade, and again achieve the character from our resident standpoint from the community standpoint, that fits in well. So that's really, it's been a long process to get here, but we wouldn't be here if we didn't have strong faith in that we can deliver this project, and it's something we feel like our track record really supports. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our colleagues at Angus Young, who will go through the design background of it.
All right, maybe before I start, is this the presentation from last week or Cooper's? I don't want to tell you to go to the next slide. You have it right.
I believe it is, yes.
Great. So I'm going to walk through, you can just
Mike,
scroll
could you
down.
introduce yourself?
Yep, sorry. If you go to the site plan, I'm going to start there and just sort of walk you through the site. So this project overall is 100 units.
Yeah.
Is it not working?
We just need to know who you are.
This is Angus. All right, so this project is overall is 100 units. It is a 4-story building with underground parking. And as we look at the site, one of the most important things that we looked at when we kind of framed how we're going to set this building on the site was really to make majority of the focus of the building out onto Lake Street. That continues that downtown feel. It fronts the park. It's great for the residents of the community, but also keeps that facade rhythm that the historic downtowns have. A couple more to the actual site plan to begin. So the former Century site, which we all know, it currently has vehicle access from both sides on lake and water. Part of our site planning efforts, again, we're going to push the building out to Lake Street and provide the vehicle access on the Water Street side of the building. A couple more, please. Here, a couple more. We go all the way to the site plan. One more. Perfect. So, again, north is up. So, building fronts on Lake Street. We've added 23 stalls along Lake Street into the angled parking, which you see kind of throughout that downtown area on Lake Street. On the far northwest corner of the site, we have commercial space. So, roughly room for 2 tenants. It's a little over 5,000 square feet, closer to 6,000. As you move to the east of the building, we have our fitness center and our main resident lobby. And as you progress down away from downtown, we turn into walk-up residential units where they have actually a front door to their units. They have a front porch at grade level. And as we walk around, that continues around the back of the building. On the south side of the building, again, we wanted to hide all that surface parking to the south side so that it's not out on Lake Street. So again, bring vehicles to the south side of the site, hide the parking from view from the downtown area. And that's where we have our entrance to our underground parking, also on the southwest entrance, and then down ramp in the lower level. So parking provided as a whole is consistent with other developments that we've done in Angus Young, but also that Hubby's provided to meet the total demand for the development. So that's a mixture of underground, on surface, and then we have the additional street parking that we created. And then there's also a secondary entrance into the resident lobby from the backside of the building, so you can enter that lobby from both sides. So if guests come and park in the parking lot, then they can enter that way. All right, if you want to go to the images, I kind of want to walk through the design. There's a few things that I want to talk about, and this image is perfect to start with. So when we do these buildings and do a historic downtown, our number one goal is always to respect the downtown character. But also we don't want to pretend to be historic because we're not a historic building. We weren't built in the early 1900s. So downtown buildings, they're authentic to their time, and new buildings should really be authentic to our time or today's time. And as we looked at the downtown fabric, 2- and 3-story buildings primarily around the park. There's a lot of great craftsmanship and historic value that you see in the masonry and the windows. So we looked at window proportions and facade rhythms and the scale of the surrounding buildings, and that really is what we use to inform this new build. One thing to mention is there's a lot of times there's perception in architecture that if we're building next to a historic building, we want to make it look like an historic building. So I wanted to talk about that just a little bit, because if we replicate a historic building, it can tend to feel artificial, or like we're trying to recreate something that wasn't built in that era. So it can kind of feel like a stage setting, you know, versus like a real part of the downtown. So each, you know, in general in architecture, each era should contribute and represent its own era in architecture. You see that, you know, the old buildings were designed and built in an era, and 20 years later, a building that was designed and built didn't look like the building from 1910, it looked like the building from 1930, right? And that's something that even the Historical Society acknowledges, and actually doesn't allow you to do that. They really want everything to be its own era and its own time. So that was really important to us as we started this. And so what you see in our design approach is a lot of responding to the downtown fabric. So the brick color detail, we've got some traditional brick detailing in the roll-lock, the size of the brick, some of the brick banding, window sizes and scale, divided light windows. The proportions of old downtowns typically have a first floor pedestrian scale proportion that has canopies or some sort of separation that makes it really kind of feel nice when you're walking by it. And then as sort of a general composition, you'll see we have kind of this rhythm of smaller sort of sections of masonry or material changes. And that's really intended to reflect the rhythms that you see in downtown, where you get the building right next door looks very different than the 25-foot wide building next to it, but it still carries some of the similar sizes and scales and proportions. That's improved. And then I do want to address the height. So this is a 4-story building. It is the only 4-story building in that sort of L-shaped of downtown. And we recognize that, and one of the approaches with this, and we do this quite often when we're in these types of scenarios, is we take the 4th floor and we set it back a relatively significant distance. And what happens is, like from this view, you can see the 4th floor. Material, we try to keep it more neutral and sort of make it go away, if you will, or blend in with the background. But when you're walking on the street, you will not be able to see the 4th floor, right? You're looking at a 3-story building, so it starts to feel from a pedestrian scale like the rest of the downtown. And again, it kind of keeps that street edge more human scale, even though you have a larger building. So that's kind of the overview. Again, the idea was to respect the past, but also be honest about what we're doing in the building. And so you'll see a mixture of cementitious panel, metal, aluminum storefront, and a pretty significant amount of masonry as well. So if you want to flip through these images, what we're going to do is just kind of walk around the building. So right now we're looking at the northwest corner. So this would be facing to the west. So again, kind of seeing that facade rhythm as it goes down the building. As you get past the commercial and the resident entry, then you get to the resident units. So those sidewalks up, or the entrances off the sidewalks are to residents' homes. And those continue as you rotate around to the east side of the building. Oh, sorry, this is back to the park. You can keep going. I was going to walk through these again. So this would be the east facade. Again, so you're seeing the resident balconies on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then you're having on the 4th, or on the 1st floor, you have the walk-up resident units. And then the next image is kind of just continue to clockwise rotation around the building. So this is the southeast corner. You can see the grade starting to drop. That also helped inform kind of how we get underneath the building. And then the next image is looking at the sort of the back side of the building. Again, we have a secondary entrance, and then you're seeing kind of our ramp down into the lower level parking and our service parking lot. And then if you want to go one more, I can kind of just quickly walk through the floor plans. So this is looking at from the city parking lot facing to the east. So you see the drop going underneath, and then the commercial space on the left side of the image. So I'll real quick go through this. This is our lower level parking. So there's 84 total parking stalls in the underground. Other uses, you just have essentially utility, bike storage, things like that. And going up to the first floor, you'll see on the, next slide please. West side, you're seeing the commercial spaces. Again, as you move to the east, you've got a fitness center. The next space has resident lobby, lounge, leasing office, parcel mail, things like that. And then as you continue to the east and then down to the south is all the resident units. And then as you build up, you'll see just the rest of the building that is built with the rest of the resident units. Yeah, so we go to the top floor. One more. Perfect. So on the northwest corner, you'll see that's our community room. So that does have an outdoor patio that will have a great interaction with the street and views of the park. That's meant to be rental room, kids' birthday parties, general sort of hangout lounge for residents, great place for residents to kind of meet and interact. And there'll be a series of games and different things fun to do in that room. And then the rest of the floor again is resident units. You can see along the Lake Street facade, the units actually change on the upper floors because the buildings step back, and then they all have private terraces that overlook Lake Street in the park. So that pretty much wraps it up. We're here for questions. Brandon Naylor, our project architect, is also here to answer questions on specifics. We're happy to answer anything you have. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Are there questions from council members at this time? Mary.
I do have a question about, I was interested in the size of the square footage of some of the unit sizes being on a smaller end, 525 square feet. And I'm just curious what market that is attracting for the very small, the studio units, because that isn't something that we've had a lot of here.
Actually, I mean, that size of studio units is a very, very common size in most new residential buildings today. It tends to play towards either a single person or a couple, and it really helps enter a price point. The unit's a little smaller, but it gives you a price point entry that you can go into. We have that size in most of our buildings we built,
Okay.
and they tend to be some of the first units that get rented. Especially in a nicer building, because it's a smaller unit, but it's more affordable, and they can get into a nice new building. And the spaces are, when you think of it, they're not as small as you might have in your head. Actually, they're actually a pretty good size, especially if you're a single person. They feel very comfortable, and it's time tested with multiple markets in multiple different places. So that's really changed over the years. That's a very common unit.
Yeah, thank you. But I'm only familiar with them on college campuses, actually, so I was just curious how they fit in a city business, a city environment. Yeah. No.
When you think of college campuses, those are more dormitory style. These are not like the college dorm room whatsoever. They're fully functional, full kitchen. They have a bedroom, although it's interior, so you don't really get to call it a one bedroom. That's why it's called a studio. So you actually do have an enclosed bedroom typically. It's not just always an open floor plan. So yeah, very, very, very tested product, and people really like it.
Great. Thank you.
I had another question. Well, I know the reason that we're considering this amendment is that you're requesting a planned development district. And so there's a couple of exceptions that you're asking for from our current zoning code. One of them is the unit size, so you've kind of explained that. Another one is the overall building height. And I wasn't clear, and maybe one of the images will show this, where is that high point in the building? I think is it 45 is the maximum that you have? I just wanted to see if you could point out for us visually where that high point is, and if that's, a considerable part of the roof line, or if it's just one feature.
Yeah, if you want to,
That's a great question.
if you want to go back to the renderings, we can take a quick peek at that, or even the 2D elevations might be a better view. I think a little bit more towards the back.
Go to the fourth floor, is that where it would be the best? Oh, no, there was a roof plan, wasn't there, in the?
Yeah, want to show you where that parapet is. For the most part, it's on that northwest corner, the commercial side. That's got
Okay.
a little bit taller.
So one more slide, I think. I think that's the
Two more
roof.
slides, I think.
It's roof plan. Oh, here.
Yeah, so you can see on the far right there, that's that northwest corner, and then that matches on the northeast corner as well. And those two parapets kind of framing the corners there are a little bit higher.
And do you remember what the maximum height there is?
We're 49.
49, okay. Thank you. One other question I had, and I don't believe this requires an exception, Dustin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm wondering if you could explain how you landed on 100 units. And, because we do have some residents, I think you addressed very well why you're going with the 4 stories, but I have heard from some constituents, why does it need to be 4 stories? Why does it need to be 100 units? I wonder if you could just talk about that a little bit for us to understand.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination. So, number one, to make it work economically, it should be a certain size. And, there's no magic to exactly 100, but that's kind of where it landed. But, we do look at, there's a couple things we look at. We do market studies, we look at demand, how many units are needed. Lake Mills, Jefferson, we did have third-party market studies done. That helps inform the size. 2, to make it have the amenities and the things in the building, getting it to a certain size allows us to do more of the amenities in the building, which makes it, we think, a better project, and the residents enjoy that, and we know that from our experience in our other buildings. Also, 100 plus or minus units is usually financially where you can justify having on-site management versus not. And so that kind of is a mark that works economically, and we think it's, from our perspective, very important to have on-site management for safety, security, customer service, and being part of the community. That's usually where that kind of lands. And so doing a smaller project to take some of those things away, you would be able to have somebody on site every day. You would be able to have the maintenance person on site every day. It just doesn't wouldn't work. So it's a combination of market demand, and then what we also know works well and what works well for the residents. And so that's kind of how we kind of came to that number. And then, of course, the site has constraints, and you can only be so big on the site. So we have to park it, we have to make sure the parking will work, and that kind of all coalesces around the plan that we came up with at that meeting.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for the Hufty representatives this evening? Or any questions for staff?
Actually, I do have one question.
Michelle?
Go ahead, Michelle.
I'm looking at your portfolio on Hufty Properties, and I'm just curious about why we went with that style versus something like what the Lamp House apartments are.
Sure. So I guess a couple things I would just note, because I did that project as well. So that one is definitely in downtown, although it is different in the sense that Highway 19 is a very, very, very heavy thoroughfare through 19, so we do have to look at those a little bit differently. There's actually an incredible amount of similarities in terms of, like, if you step back from it, look at rhythms and brick detailing. One of the approaches there that is different from here is we took sort of a reflection of Waunakie's industrial nature into the building design, so that's why you see some of those really large divided light windows, and that's meant to reflect some of that, kind of where some of that town grew up a little bit. But otherwise, there are a lot of similarities in those buildings. Is there something specific that you're seeing that maybe I can address directly? Yep, go ahead. The other thing in Waunakee that's hard to see when you just look at it on the website is it's also framing on the other side of the road was a historic building with certain characteristics, certain look to it. That building that you're looking at is on the other side of the street, and so it's kind of also mirroring, some of that aspects from across the street, so the two buildings work well together. So that also informs materials and stuff as well. And that was also part of the thought process in the architecture. So actually, if you can see the Village Crossing on our website, that's across the street. So you can kind of see some of that play.
One of the things I like about the lamp house is the extra piece on top of, because that is symbolic throughout downtown Lake Mills. There's that, just like, it's a minor thing, but it's just enough of an accent that it's not necessarily making it look like it's trying to be old, but it's keeping to some of the similarities of those buildings, and I just wondered if that was something worth considering.
We can always consider that. We did try to go through kind of the comment session. We took a lot of feedback from the Plan Commission. We incorporated that into revised plans. So we're always willing to take a suggestion. Yeah, we tried to get a lot of that on the front end and make adjustments. But it's something we can certainly talk about.
Sure.
I would note, if you go back and look at the attachment under the concept review at Plan Commission versus then what was included at the public hearing, there were changes based on feedback from the Plan Commission that they incorporated into their design. One thing I would note, like the Lamp House Apartments kind of has some of the entrances, there's that overhang that you can kind of see at the street level. And one of the things that the HUVD team did is the Plan Commission wanted more kind of open, flat entrances with awnings, similar to other downtown buildings. And so that's kind of where you see some of those deviations, as well as coloring and window changes as well. So some of the architectural incorporations were a direct result of Plan Commission feedback during that concept review stage.
I'm not saying that it needs to look exactly like Lamp House, but one of the pieces that I appreciated was that just extra piece on top of the buildings that looks like it was, like many of the other buildings that we have downtown. It's not just a flat, square, end to the top. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I actually want to point something out in that regard.
Okay.
Because one of the things, we've helped a couple of smaller communities develop their downtown design standards, and one of the most important things with relating to historic architecture is that you can see this across every building has a base, a middle that's usually 2 stories, and has some sort of treatment at the top, or a cap, right? So I'm going to walk over here real quick. So like if you look at this corner, very intentionally a base, a middle, and then we have brick treatment and a top. And if you look as this goes down, they all have that very similar thing. So sometimes they don't show up the best in the imagery, but there is, this one's got roll-lock bricks. This one has a flat panel with some sort of cornice detailing. This one has a band and then the top cap. So those are there, although different than Lamp House, for sure, because it's a different design style and a different intent. But that idea of how we sort of, again, kind of respect the traditional architectural proportions, that we definitely are doing in this building.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Any other questions? I just have a process question for Drake, and I think you explained this earlier, and I just want to make sure that we all understand. So the ordinance that we have is a zoning amendment. It describes an amendment from downtown business to downtown business with a planned development overlay. The zoning amendment document itself doesn't mention the general development plan, precise implementation plan. I think this came up in a previous development 6 months ago. So were you saying earlier that if we approve the zoning amendment, we are approving the general development plan and precise implementation plan at the same time?
Yeah, they overlap. So by our code, you can't approve the PDD overlay if it doesn't have the components listed as necessary to the PDD overlay. So there will be an approval. It's approved as a package. So the ordinance change, the general development plan, the precise implementation plan, and then also a development agreement.
And so we'll see those at the time of will we see those at the time of the third reading then? The other pieces?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. I appreciate the representatives giving us an overview in our community. Lots of people watch these, so people are aware of what you're proposing, and so thank you. So we will, this will get carried forward to a second reading at our next meeting then. All right, thank you. So we'll move on then to ordinance 1289, and that's the first reading of that ordinance as well. So Misty, would you read that one for us?
Ordinance number 1289, repealing and replacing ordinance number 665B as amended by ordinance number 1054 and as chapter 594, trees, vegetation, and urban forestry.
Thank you. So I know Greg Waters is the sponsor of this, and he's not here tonight. Drake, are you able to give us just maybe kind of a summary of what he's putting forward?
I will do my best. The impetus for this ordinance change, the repeal and recreation, comes from the ad hoc committee on urban forest management that the council created, and then sunsetted after they completed their deliverables. The major change, obviously, there's a title change. It's no longer just trees, but incorporates shrubs and plantings. And then the major change throughout the document, although there are several throughout it, is the creation of a heritage tree program. Some of the changes made from that Mr. Waters included in his sponsored ordinance. There is no more mention of any private trees to be incorporated into the program, so it does focus on public trees only. The process for categorizing a tree as a heritage tree, the criteria by which trees are evaluated against, the role of the forester and the role of the boards within the city, kind of approval structure. There is there's some changes to the I guess, creation of the master street tree plan with a review by, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on which board. The master street tree plan is Public Works Board, so in coordination with the Public Works Board for the master street tree plan. That was different than originally. It was the Parks Board. Mr. Waters acknowledged that street trees are generally part of street projects, and then so he incorporated into a Public Works Board authority rather than the Parks Board. That's a very broad overview. I'm sure Mr. Waters would do a better job of explaining, but as you read through it, there are significant changes to the existing ordinance. The main one being the heritage tree program creation. There are different changes, I think, if I remember correctly, as far as notice to property owners when a tree is up for removal, and other kind of operational changes, I guess you might be able to say, throughout it. So there were enough changes that a repeal and recreation rather than an amendment was the cleanest route to present to the city council.
Well, thank you. So this is our first reading tonight. Are there any questions from council members this evening?
One question as it relates to the recent kind of restructure that we've gone through with the new hires. Do we still have a facilities and grounds director, or is that title changed?
The resolution appointing the Public Works Director did designate the Public Works Director to have all the powers and duties of the Grounds and Facilities Director. So we did foresee that as being kind of a hiccup, but rather than going through our entire code and amending it that way, the Public Works Director has those authorities as listed in the code.
Cool, thank you.
I don't know if you'll have this information tonight, but when the tree committee first gave the recommendation regarding the Heritage Tree Program, I know there was a couple, that was more than a year ago, there's a couple council members, including myself, that expressed concern about whether we have the capacity to manage that program within our existing staff. Do you have any information about that, or is that something that we could get a little bit more information about before the third reading? What, sort of hours and staff level requirements to implement that program?
I think we could collect some information for you. Obviously, it's Brian's second day here, so I haven't sat
Sure.
down with him too much on it.
He
But
doesn't have an answer for that yet?
I think that there are things that we could sit down and discuss, and then include the arborist as well. Obviously, the process for approving a heritage tree, the maintenance of the heritage tree list. There is an option for the placement of identifying signage or something near a tree. It does say may, so it's not compulsory. So that was an acknowledgement by the ad hoc committee that there are capacity restraints. But yes, I can sit down with our new public works director as well as the arborist and kind of evaluate what impact this would have on their capacity within their job duties.
Thank you, and I guess kind of a related question I have, since, we have, I'm sure Brian hasn't had a chance to take a look at this, but since Mr. Waters has made some changes, have staff had a chance to review this and give any feedback or give any input to Mr. Waters?
I did sit down with Mr. Waters prior to him kind of crafting his changes to it. The city attorney did review it and made recommendations that are included in here for it. So there has been a review of the language as it's written.
Okay, thank you. I'm particularly interested in our arborist's perspective on it. So that'll be something I'll probably ask about in a future meeting.
Mm-hmm. One other, as it's all coming back to me, there is kind of 594-5, perhaps of interest to the council. The genus kind of sets at 20%, except for oak trees, which it sets at a 30% goal. And then the species is at 10% of population, or 15% for oak trees within the urban forest. The committee did hear from various experts. They heard from the forester in the village of Cambridge, and the increase in the oak tree percentage was something that was seen as beneficial and acceptable towards the urban forest. So that's why you see kind of that change. If you went online and looked at the code as it's written now, that would be a difference in kind of the population, the forest population standards.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments this evening? Okay, if not, we'll move ordinance 1289 to our next agenda for a second reading. And that concludes our council business for this evening. So we have announcements and recommendations for future agendas. We have our two ordinances that will be moving forward. Any other announcements or recommendations from council members? No? Drake, anything you want to add?
Not at this time.
Okay. Then our last agenda item is that we will be convening into closed session to discuss real estate acquisition and/or site development opportunities within TID number 8, as described in our agenda. So I'll need a motion to convene into closed session.
I will move to convene into closed session.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mary Schmaker, seconded by Michelle Quinn now. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Mr. Coots? Okay, that's 4-0. So we'll now convene into closed session, and that will be off broadcast. So we'll conclude the meeting off of TV. And thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.